That's good. Right. So with your consent, we are recording this class. And today what we are going to learn is K Tempest's The Woman the Boy Became. Okay. Now, before we go into the poem, I would like to just give you a bit of background and detail. The Woman the Boy Became is a poem that comes under the genre of performance poetry. Okay, because K Tempest is not your ordinary run of the mill poet. Okay, she does not just pen her lines on paper, she also performs them. Okay, and this act of performance is very important. Okay, now you should know that there are a number of ways in which people express their art. The concept of art itself has been revolutionized over the last couple of, I would say, centuries. The way in which you look at art has completely transformed. Okay, and art has now come to mean more than the particular object, which kind of increases your aesthetic interest, or which arouses your aesthetic curiosity. Okay, it is also something of a political statement. It is a matter of performance. It is a space. Okay, art is not just the object, it is also a space that needs to be filled. Sometimes having nothing in a space itself is intensely political art. Okay, and in the last couple of centuries, confessional poetry, which is deeply personal, at the same time political, all of these have become very, very important as far as expressing the innermost concerns of human beings, or human society is concerned. See, there is something called abstract art, okay, which can probably stand outside of an individual. Okay, and there is also something called personal art, which comes from within the person, which contains an obvious element of the individual. Okay, it contains the obvious element of the individual. Now, this is not to say that abstract art is not personal, but what it does is it distills the emotion, it distills the aesthetics in terms of presentation. Whereas personal art is something that is more edgy, okay, more in your face, more palpable, more tangible. It is something that you can touch very easily. There are no curtains. Understand? So that brings us to the genre of performance poetry. See, performance poetry became extremely popular in the 1980s in America, in Chicago, Illinois, when a person decided to organize poetry readings where people would come onto the stage and they would perform their poems, and they would be graded by the audience, and finally three people, best performers of that day, would be given points, and gradually they would come back over and over again till there would be a clear winner at the end of the duration of the competition. Understand? But over a period of time, what happened was that the performance poetry became more than just the idea of performing your poetry. It became intensely personal, it became intensely political, and the stage itself became a transformative, performative space. Okay, how you use the stage, what are you doing with the stage, how are you presenting yourself on the stage, where are you standing on the stage. So the performance began to incorporate not just the voice of the poet, it also began to incorporate the body, the clothes, the act, the action, as well as the stage itself. Understand? So it became a very lively, it became a very interactive space where the audience response was almost immediate. Understand? So it was spontaneous, it was there for people to gauge. And performance poetry allowed a number of new rhythms, a number of interesting structures to come into poetry. Okay, now as you know, when you normally read poetry, you might be distanced from the poet. Okay, the poet is not going to be standing at the corner of the page and directing your responses, or you cannot direct your responses at the poet. But in performance poetry, which was, spontaneous, which was live, which was happening right in front of your eyes, you can react, you can agree, you can disagree. In a sense of the term, it is rather a stand-up, performance in terms of poetry. Okay, in a poetic mode. All right. So that is what is performance poetry. And performance poetry over the ages has become a very potent vehicle in order to talk about issues that are very contemporary to human beings, particularly in the areas of sexuality, politics, questions of caste, race, and gender. Understand? In India also, what we call slam poetry. Have you heard of slam poetry? Anyone? SLAM, slam poetry. No? Okay. Slam poetry is another name for performance poetry. Okay. And now, if you're wondering why I'm talking about all these things at this point of time, it is because the poet whom we are going to read about or study today is someone called K. Tempest, Kae Tempest. Okay, who was formerly known as Kate Tempest. All right. She I'm saying the word she here because as the last time I'll be using that word in order to refer to Kate. Okay, so Kate Tempest, I think it was somewhere in 2016 or so that she decided that she no longer wants to be known as a female, that she would prefer to be called gender fluid. Understand? So it was an announcement of her gender fluidity, and she began to adopt the pronouns they, theirs, and them. Understand? So yes, I'm going to be referring to Kate Tempest as Kate Tempest, and what we are going to do here is we are going to be listening to their poetry. All right. So since we are talking about performance poetry, I think it would be ideal if we, listen to their performance. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen where I have a video. Okay, of her reading, of their reading this particular poem. Can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you need to also tell me if you can hear the video. Okay.
More brawn than most, born raw, born close to ghosts, born storm. You could tell she wasn't from the same place as the rest. Born wrong, born strong, she grew. Growing is what anyone would do. Given the particulars, she knew what she knew. She was ridiculous. Born too smart and too dumb. Born to hold the world under her tongue. Don't swallow yet. She felt all the things that others didn't feel, or if they did a lot to conceal what the feelings were. She felt skies and bricks and rain. She felt it all. It made her fall and weep beneath the crawling dawn when everything was ruined, torn. Man, she felt ill, but she felt still. Now, how many yous have you been? How many? Lined up inside, each killing the last. How many times have you felt yourself change? Seen yourself splitting in half? And when does it happen? There in the moment? Or when you look back and say, that's when my changing began? Born hero, born freak, born weirdo, born blind, born seeing, born man, she stands. The hillside beneath her is crumbling. The sky frowns. The land wants to return to the sea. She is food for the gulls and it's humbling. But this is not all that she was born to be. All of the things in her life that have happened. All of the changes, all of the strangers, all of the nights and the days in her heart have been present in her since the start. You don't learn, you remember. Born with it all in your chest. Born first, learn last, burn fast like paper. Unless you're wet logs, man, the wet dogs shelter in her caves when they get lost and they howl with her. She has been touched without asking. punched by a madman, drunk in this bad town. And when she puts her hands down and feels what's beneath, she feels all the grief of the world. Lay a wreath for the girls. She will march until she feels tarmac respond. She will die for our wrongs we won't notice. She will be fire and sleet and granite, space rock shattering the planet. She just wants to stop it all spinning in its tracks like a dumb child. She will be prophet one day. For the moment, she takes up all that she can. She will own it, this filthy body, this life, the dethronement of all that was precious, in favor of all that is fetid. Opponents mean nothing. She's titled, born of the first breed, born in the last days, frightened of nothing that bleeds. The more that you hate her, the less that she needs. And all of her childhood passed in a flash when she woke on her back in that clearing, saying, time to be me now. But how many yous will you carry, weeping and desperate to marry? How many yous will you turn out the light for the night? She is burned out, but she'll be all right. She is coming up, child of our times. Red morning, blood on the tips of the thorns, and the awning is dripping with all of our scorn. We were born in days that will fill you with porn and with boredom, while the grey little faces march in the squadron to war songs penned by cynical fiends. The latest big hit that cements the routine. Come on, sell me this download and kill all my dreams. She is rising. She can see through these disguises. They stab knives in her thighs, see the swell of her iris. She survives. She will run till these cities are vanquished, and all of the children are gods again. Man.
Okay. Did you enjoy that?
Yes, ma'am.
What struck you about their performance? What struck you about their performance?
Confidence of the words.
Confidence, then. What about her gestures? What about the way that she was moving about? Yes, Zara. Oh, I thought you were going to say something. Okay. Yeah, the presentation. Yeah, that's one of the comments. Yeah. Also, it's about their fluidity of thought. Understand the way in which they were going about laying their ideas. Okay, and with such seeming spontaneity. Okay, so it was a way of their connecting with the audience, but at the same time there was an element of something of a personal narrative as well. Yes, performance. Understand? Voice modulation. Yeah, it was truly powerful. Absolutely. I'm just looking at all the comments that you people are posting. Okay, so this was not just an ordinary performance. This was a performance that was significant personally as well as politically. Okay, because on the gender spectrum, most people would say that they are female, they are male, all right, and somehow we seem to imagine that these categories are fixed and they must be followed to the last alphabet. Okay, that a man should not feel like whatever it is to feel like a woman, that a woman should not feel like whatever it is to feel like a man. None of these things should be possible. That gender is non-transgressive. Okay, that each one, whatever body that they are born into, they must live with it no matter how differently they feel. Okay, but here is Kate Tempest, okay, who is now Kay Tempest, who has changed their name, who has come out with their identity, okay, who call themselves non-binary, who do not answer to either of these gender categories or any other gender category for that matter, who stand for fluidity. Okay, and this fluidity gives them greater freedom. It gives them the opportunity to express themselves in these beautiful words. Understand? And in fact, some of her signature works have come from their poetry collection called Hold Your Own, and another one is Connection. Understand? Now, the one that we are learning now, The Woman the Boy Became, comes from their poetry collection, Hold Your Own. Okay, and this particular collection is based on the myth or the story of Tiresias, okay, from Greek mythology. Now, for example, I don't know whether you know the story of Tiresias. Tiresias was a sage, understand? And what happened is that Tiresias was a sage. He was a man who came upon a particular sacred spot, and he found two snakes copulating or making love, and he disturbs them. He disrupts them, and what happens is he is cursed and he's changed to a woman. Okay, and then what goes on to happen is that the Tiresias as a woman marries, has children, and then on one of her well, let's say walks or so on, she chances upon that same sacred spot where again there are two snakes mating, and she goes by without disturbing them. Okay, in some versions it is said that she again disturbs them so as to reverse the curse. But anyway, what happens is Tiresias is able to regain his original identity as a man. Okay, and life goes on. But then what happens is there is an argument that breaks out between Zeus and his wife. Okay, Zeus is the king of the gods and his wife, and where the question is who has greater pleasure while making love, whether it is a man or a woman. And then they call Tiresias, and Tiresias says, well, women have more fun, and the goddess Hera is very angry with him, so she strikes him blind. But Zeus feels kindly towards him, so what Zeus does is he gives him the gift of inner sight. Understand? So here you have Tiresias, who is considered to be one of the classic, let's say, examples of gender fluidity. Okay, someone who has lived life as a man, someone who has lived life as a woman, someone who has gone back to being a man, and someone who has lost his obvious ability to see but has the inner gift of sight. Okay, so this Hold Your Own, kind of plays on those stories, and that is why that particular line that is there, that says, "How many yous do you hold?" Right now, how many yous have you been? Okay, lines like those talk about not just the various selves that you have. It is also about the various identities that people possess. Understand? The whole idea of fluidity of gender, okay, of whether you want to be a man or a woman, or whether you don't want to be known as any of these things, whether you want to occupy that indefinite space or the intermediary space, any of these things are okay. Understand? So K. Tempest is a very significant figure, not just on account of their poetry, but also on account of the political and personal statement that they make through their very identity. Is this much clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts? Any clarifications that you want? Anything that you would like to know more about? Okay. So having said that, it doesn't mean that, K. Tempest poetry should be or can be or must be read only by those who identify with the idea of gender fluidity or, non-gendered, binariness. That's not the case. Okay, non-binary genderedness, I'm sorry. That's not the case. Okay, it is meant for anybody and everybody who has a sense of the self. Okay, so the idea of transformation is there in the very title itself. The woman, the boy became. Okay, and through the concept of this entire poem, right from the title all the way up to the end, what we can see is this idea of transformation and how the body of the female is seen as a site of resistance and resilience. Okay, it's a site of both resistance and resilience. Understand? And she talks about the body. She talks very very physically about the body and the violence that the body is subjected to. So if you take a look at that, do you have the poem with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So look at that. More brawn than most. Brawn is again muscle or strength. Okay, born warm, born close to ghosts, born storm, born old, grew young. You could tell she wasn't from the same place as the rest. Born strong, born wrong. She grew. Understand? So here, what we also see is a question of gender dysphoria or body dysphoria. Okay, dysphoria. Dysphoria is a sense of disagreement. It's a sense of discomfort. Okay, inability to identify. Okay, so here is somebody who seems to be more muscular than the others, who seems to be warmer, kinder than the others. So see, it's also a process of juxtaposing what we consider male and female characteristics, typical male and typical female characteristics. So you have muscle, which is associated with the male, you have warmth associated with female, born close to ghosts, that is having a mystical connection. Now connect all of this with the idea of Tiresias. Understand? So born more brawn than most. Okay, so that's it's the mind of a woman within the body of a man. Okay, born warm, again the mind of a woman within the body of a man. Okay, then born close to ghosts, being able to see more than what there is. Born storm. Okay, that is born with a sense of extreme knowledge of the self. Born old, born wise, grew young, again having the ability to live life to the fullest. And then they say you could tell she wasn't from the same place as the rest, that there was something different about this person. People who are gender fluid, people who are non-binary, often people say, oh, I always knew there was something different about them. They didn't seem to fit with the rest of us, kind of. And there's always an us and a them in these conversations. Okay, born strong, born wrong. And see here, the idea of wrong is not something that is shown as bad. This born wrong is being celebrated. That is what is happening. Okay, she grew. So within that brawn, that muscle, there was a she who grew. Okay, and they continue, growing is what anyone would do, giving the particulars. So see, when you are in a body that is such as this, what else can you do but grow? When people look at small children, they say, oh my God, how much they have grown. Now tell me, what else will a small child do? The job of a small child is to grow to a bigger child and then to become an adult. So why are we so surprised about it? So anyway, that inevitability, that sense of inevitability, the person is born in the wrong body, the person has a different mind, the person doesn't seem to fit in, all of that is there. But what to do? What to do? But to grow. Okay, so given the particulars, given the situation, she knew what she knew. She was ridiculous. Okay, born too smart and too dumb, born to hold the world under her tongue. So see, now here, what Kay does is, they bring in the idea of precarity, Precarity. Okay, that is, non-binary people, gender fluid people, people who identify as, non-heteronormative, all of these people live in a state of precarity, which is a state of constant danger around their physical, economic, cultural, and political selves. See, when you are sure that you are a woman, okay, then you will find, opportunities opening up for you in one way or the other. When you are a man and you're certain of your identity, there are opportunities that are open for you one way or the other. But when, you are not really quite sure, when your identity is fluid, somehow the world tries to undermine you. It tries to defeat you. It tries to block your opportunities. Understand? And that state of living on constantly living on the edge, living in a state of unsureness, okay, in terms of your ability, in terms of your opportunities, in terms of how you will be received, all of these things makes your existence extremely precarious. Okay, this idea was spoken about by the gender theorist Judith Butler. Okay, Judith Butler, right? So let's continue. So, she knows, I mean, she has to grow. That is all there is. She was ridiculous. According to other people, she was ridiculous. And also, in a pop culture sense of the term, she was ridiculous. But she was both smart and dumb. She was smart when she was considered to be a man. She was dumb when she was seen as a woman. It could be any of these things. And she says, born to hold that word under her tongue. Understand? This is a reference to sometimes, where there are, let's say suicide bombers or, people who could be captured by the police. What they do is that they hold a particular capsule under their tongue. And if they are captured, in the process of being captured, they just bite down upon it. It's a cyanide capsule. Understand? Okay, or sometimes they are asked to swallow it so that they can be killed before they are captured. Understand? So that is the reference over here. So such is the extreme precarity, such is the sense of danger, the sense of unsureness, the sense of insecurity that pervades identities such as these. Understand? So she says, don't swallow yet. Okay, that's the advice that they give. Don't swallow yet. Don't give up yet. She felt all the things that others did feel, or if they did a lot to conceal what the feelings were. Now here, the reference is to the sense of honesty that gender fluid or non-heteronormative people have committed. They have committed themselves to a sense of honesty. Because sometimes people might feel differently about their bodies, they might feel differently about their sexuality, but they are too scared to mention it, too scared to open up about it. Understand? And I have talked to a number of members of the gender fluid community, members of the transgender community, and so on, and I have asked them how they have felt upon coming out. And the one thing that most of them have told me is that they have felt extremely free. They have felt a sense of freedom, that there is nothing to hide, there is no need to hide, and they just present themselves as they are. And they say that they feel a sense of sympathy for those people who constantly go on hiding who they are. Understand? So that's what here they are also talking about. She felt all the things that others did feel. So that sense of heightened thing, where your body feels one way, your mind feels another way. So you are able to experience matters both ways, okay, in different ways. Or sometimes maybe others also feel the same way, but they never come out in the open and talk about it. So that brutal honesty to oneself and to others is what Kate Tempest is talking about over here. She felt skies and bricks and rain. She felt it all. It made her fall and weep beneath a crawling dawn when everything was ruined, torn. She felt ill, but she felt still. Understand? So she says here, the poet says that the particular person has felt everything, has felt hurt, has felt beauty, has felt sorrow. Okay, those words there, skies, brick, rain, all refers to beauty, sorrow, pain. Understand? And some of these experiences have made the person stumble, but then they have always gotten up. Understand? So they have felt ill, they have felt sick, they have felt sad, they have felt tired and upset. But what is the most important thing? They still retain the ability to feel. They are grateful for that ability to feel, to experience. What is being foregrounded here is the honesty of experience. Understand that fidelity to experience is what is being appreciated here, what is being offered gratitude for. And then comes the very significant question: how many yous have you been? How many lined up inside, each killing the last? So this is a reference to the multitude of selves that you place as lies in front of each other, so that the truth about you is never revealed. Understand? Now I want you to imagine those Matryoshka dolls, that are the Russian dolls, so that we talk about, which kind of conceal one doll inside the other. And finally, when you open the last one, there is this tiny sized doll. That is more or less the reference. Also is the reference to the image of Tiresias. Understand? So, they're asking here, how many yous have you, kept yourself, kept locked up within yourself? How many, each killing the last? So the multiple yous here are those lies, those self-deceptions that you use to deceive or lie to yourself, as well as those lies that you say to others to convince them that the truth is something else. Understand? Now connect this to the idea of all the things that they didn't feel, or if they did, they concealed. So see, this idea of light and shadow, and revelation and concealment. Light and shadow, revelation and concealment. These are the ideas that run through the entire let's say geography of this world. Okay. Yeah. So again, they repeat, how many times have you seen yourself change, felt yourself splitting in half? When does it happen? There in the moment, or when you look back and say, that's when my changing began? Understand? So that is it. So they are asking in terms of also that crucial moment when the person decides enough is enough. I am going to change. I am going to transform. I am going to let my true self take over. You get that? So again, they continue. Born hero, born freak, born weirdo. Okay. So see, in your own perception, you are a hero. Okay, for having come out the way that you have, for embracing that transformation, for helping that transformation. Okay, but for others, you might be a freak, you might be a weirdo. Okay, and now again, this is a clear reference to the Tiresias myth. Okay, born blind, born seeing. Sometimes you are born, and when you say this particular expression, born blind and born seeing. Born blind, even if you have sight, you could be blind because you are shying away from the truth. You are closing your eyes to the truth about yourself. Okay, when you are born seeing, it is also this inner, realization that there is something different about you, that what you present to others is not you. And this knowledge is there in people right from the time of their birth. Okay, my conversations have told me that people have often known from, I think, very early childhood, even from the age of 1 or 2 for that matter, that there was something different about them. Children of ages 3, 4, etc. have expressed their desire to be something else, someone else, dressed differently, treated differently. So that is why you are born blind, in the sense when you block those impulses, when you stop listening to those voices, you are born blind. Understand? You are born seeing when in spite of lying to others, in spite of lying to yourself, you actually know that there is a truth. And that truth you can see within you, inside you. So again, that whole play on light and shadow, revelation and concealment. Born man, she stands. So see, the person is born a man, but who is standing? She. It is like looking into a mirror, where the reflection is that of a woman, but the person who's standing in front of the mirror is a man. You should mentally envisage that. So born man, she stands. Okay, the hillside beneath her is crumbling, the sky frowns, the land wants to return to the sea. All of these, images of disintegration, of dissolving, all of this is metaphorical for seeking the truth. Okay, for seeking the truth. When the hillside beneath her crumbles, when the sky is frowning, all of these are images of disintegration, anger, and the land returning to the sea. That it's when the sea receded that land was revealed. So when land wants to return to the sea, it is a desire to return home to one's own true self. Okay, and the poem continues. She is food for the gulls and it is humbling, but this is not all that she was born to be. All of the things in her life that have happened, all of the changes, all of the strangers, all of the nights and the days in her heart have been present since the start. So, see, there is an intense consciousness of being more than what society intended you to be. Understand? So the person is trying to tell themselves that they are more than what other people have expected you to be. Understand? So, every human being is a sum total of all the people they have met. Okay, because everybody you meet leaves an impression on you. Everybody you meet, you may not remember them, but they will leave an impact upon you. Okay, now you don't learn, you remember. See, that's the thing. You don't learn. It's not an educative process, but you remember. It's a more primal process. Understand? Yeah. Born with it all in your chest, born first, learn last, burn fast like paper unless you are wet logs. Okay. Wet dogs shelter in her caves when they get lost, howl with her. So, all of these things are processes of transformation. You're born with everything in your chest. You're born with the knowledge of who you are, what you want to be, how you want to present yourself, what are your ideas, what is your true self. You know all of these things. You are actually born first. Learning is something that happens last. See, all knowledge, the knowledge that stays with you is instinctual. You gain it through experience. Understand? Very few things that you learn actually stay with you. So learning is the last thing that happens. Understand? It is understanding that happens first. Think about it. That's very significant. Okay. So yeah, and burn fast. That is, just explode, just combust like paper, unless you are wet logs. Wet logs, pieces of wood that are wet, they will not burn. Nothing affects them. They are resistant. So what she's saying is, what they are saying is, give in to those, impulses. Just combust. Just embrace yourself. Know the truth that you are, rather than being a wet log and, just stagnating, just resisting, and not allowing anything new to penetrate, not allowing knowledge to be realized. Okay. And they say, wet dogs shelter in her caves when they get lost, howl with her. That primal image of a female identity. That primal image is what is being referred to here. Now, again, as I told you, the idea of violence and the body is being talked about here. She has been touched without asking, punched by a madman, drunk in a bad town. When she puts her hands down and feels what's beneath, she feels all the grief of the world. Lay a wreath for the girls. She will march till she feels the tarmac respond. She will die for our wrongs. We won't notice. She is raw, a fire and sleet and granite, space rock shattering the planet. She wants to stop it spinning in its track like a dumb child. She will be prophet one day. For a moment, she soaks up all that she can. She will own it. This filthy body, this life, the dethronement of all that was precious, in favor of all that is tepid, opponents meaning nothing. She is Titan, born of the first breed, born in the last days, frightened of nothing that bleeds. The more you hate her, the less she needs. All of her childhood passed in a flash. when she woke on her back in a clearing. Time to be me now. Okay, so here you look at the violence that is perpetrated upon a body that is perceived as female. Understand, being subjected to sexual violence, being subjected to verbal violence. Being part of a larger movement to end this violence, being part of putting your body through the route of activism. Marching for equality, marching for rights, marching for the right to live. Okay, and she wants to stop the world in her tracks. This narrator, that's the advice that is being given by Kay. Says, they say, stop the world in its tracks, make actual and real change. Okay, and the poet says she will march. That is this particular truth. Okay, now here the body means truth. So you see the process of transformation from brawn to the embracing of truth, from there to the idea of violence that is being perpetrated upon the body, and from there a distilled sense of self. Okay, the female self. Understand? So they say she will be prophet one day. Okay, not today, but one day. After all of this sacrifice, after all of this violence, one day they will be a prophet. She will be a prophet. And the body is praised, the female identity is praised. She is titan. Okay, not anybody ordinary. It is someone who is very powerful. Okay, and how does one get there? Through understanding and defeating the politics of violence. They are referring to this idea, to this horrific act of sexual violence. The scene that is being depicted is that of a woman who wakes up in a clearing, in a kind of a ground surrounded by bushes. When she wakes up and she realizes the violence that has been perpetrated upon her. When she wakes up, it isn't not that she was sleeping. When she regains her consciousness, she realizes the violence that was perpetrated upon her body, and then the entire childhood. Childhood is not just the literal childhood, it is also metaphorical childhood. It is that awareness of, it is that sense of innocence, and the awareness that terrible things have happened to this body, that there are terrible things that can happen again to this body. Understand? So that is the reference over there. So this is a poem that talks about truth, that talks about seeking the truth, talks about facing up to the truth and standing by the truth. It also discusses violence and the impact that it can have upon not just the body but also the mind of a person. Okay, how many yous will you carry, weeping and desperate to marry? How many yous will you turn out the light for the night? She has burnt out, but she will be all right. She is coming up, child of her time. So see, that's what they are asking. How many yous will you carry within you? Because often women are told, you are a girl, you are a daughter, you are a mother, you are a sister, you are a that, you are a this. What kind of burden do you want to carry all the time? And often it is told to the women, you must marry, and you must marry well. Your entire life is oriented towards getting married and getting a good husband and so on and so forth. That is all that is constantly talked about. Okay, so right from the time of her birth all the way up to the time she gets with getting girls married. Understand? And again they are asking, how many yous will you churn out? How many yous are you going to keep producing? Today you are mother, tomorrow you are daughter, tomorrow you are sister, and all those expectations that are placed upon you in these roles, they make you tired, burned out. Burned out is the last state of exhaustion. It is that point beyond which you cannot feel. Understand? So they say, oh, she's burned out, but she's all right. See, always women have come up with this idea that I'm tired, but I'm all right. Other people also make those statements about women. She's a bit tired today, she has a headache, but that's okay, she'll be all right. We'll come for the dinner. We will have the party. We will organize the festival. Not a problem at all. See, They keep saying these things. That assumption that no matter what, she's just going to be all right. It is glib. It is condescending. Okay. So, but what is said? She's coming up, child of her time. So the time of truth is only beginning. Red morning, blood on the tips of the thorns, and the awning is dripping with all of our scorn. We were born in days that will fill you with porn and with boredom. Grey little faces march in the squadron to war songs penned by cynical fiends. The latest big hit that cements the routine. Sell us the download and kill all our dreams. So see here, what they are talking about is this, constant commodification. Okay, commodification, constant commodification that happens. Understand? Everything is material. Everything is just as good till the next big thing comes along. There is a sense of mindlessness in our commercialized existences. Okay, so what they are referring to is the commercialized and commodified existences that we live. Our mega serials, our soap operas are out there on TV. Soap serials are out there on TV. Today we watch it, tomorrow we forget it, then again we watch it. See, this constant mechanization is a way of one forgetting one's self. Understand? In all of this, who you are, what your problems are, how you feel, all of these things are buried once and for all. But, okay, she rises. She will see through the disguises. They will stab knives in her thighs. See the swell of her iris? She survives. She will run till the cities are vanquished and all the children are gods again. But what they say is that despite this crass commercialization and this crass commodification which tries to hide our individuality. See, for example, mass produced clothes. Okay, there will be this particular designer label that will produce a cheaper line of clothes, and there will be like 10,000 of them, and all of us feel compelled to buy it. Understand? We all want to watch the same movies, and all the movies are actually just the same. They carry the same storyline over and over and over again. They numb our mind, they kill our imagination. But, okay, when they say she rises, so within that body of the boy, when the woman rises, when she reveals her own self, her true self, then this person will see through the disguises. See, remember Tiresias and the mind's eye that was given as a boon? That is it. Okay. So beyond this particular two eyes that we have, there is an inner eye. When that rises, it will see through all disguises. It will see through the lies. It will see through the deception. It will see through the hypocrisy of society. Okay, there will be place for the truth and nothing but the truth. But what will happen? Others will stab knives in her thighs. They will commit violence. But do you see the swell of her iris? Do you see the way that the eyes are responding? Remember, there was a line earlier that says, she will be prophet one day. This is that time. Okay, this is that time, that revelation. Okay, out of the concealment, there is this revelation that comes about. Okay, she survives. So though there might be an entire set of people who are out to kill this truth, who are out to suppress this truth, oppress this truth, she will rise. The true self will one day come to the forefront, will come to the surface. And what will happen? She will run till the cities are vanquished. So all those, cities here refers to those rigid structures of regularity that we have built up in our heads. Okay, the rigid structures of regularity that we have built in our heads. She will run through all of them. That is, she will ruin them. She will break them down. She will burn them down. And all the children are gods again. So, till innocence can be celebrated again. See, children don't somehow have this realization of who is a boy, who is a girl, what is different, and I mean, very small children. They all play with each other. They all are nice to each other. They are kind of outside of these gender and sexuality differences. Till we tell them, oh, boys don't cry. Oh, you are a girl. You are so cute. Inna picho, hold a frill frock. Wear this. Wear pink. Play with a doll. It is the adults. It is these rigid structures of society that try to classify said a child as a boy and this child as a girl, and then they start bracketing themselves away, and by the time they are in third standard, fourth standard, they will only talk to boys if they are a boy, they'll only talk to girls if they are a girl, and they don't want to mix with each other. Then comes adolescence and all the hormones, and then they pretty much don't know what to do. Okay, well, you would know about that. So, that's why, they say, and all the children are gods again. That is, there is a state of innocence. There is a state of being able to go beyond these rigid, commodified, commercialized, regularized existences. So that is the note of hope that this poem ends on and maintains. So if you examine the poem structurally as well as textually, it is a poem that talks about reaffirmation of life. It is a poem that talks about wanting to claim the truth, that the truth is something that will set this world free. Okay, and it is, in order to be truthful, it is important to come out of those rigid, commodified, regularized structures that we have become so familiar and comfortable with. We are so familiar and comfortable with them that we are scared to break them. Okay, and the day that we recognize innocence, that will be the day that these worlds come crashing down. Because if you also notice, children are not afraid. So the day we stop being afraid will be the day that the world will become that much of a better place. Okay, when I say children are not afraid, it is we who instill fear in the minds of the children. Don't go there. You will fall, break your leg. Don't, look under the bed. There is a monster hiding there. The very idea of monsters, the very idea of fear is put in the mind of the child by the adult. By observing adult behavior is when the child learns about fear. I don't know if you've seen that Mammootty CBI movie, the last one that was released, where, people believe that there is a corner of the house that is haunted or something. And what he does is he takes the young child, a very small, I think 1-year-old child or something, puts the child in the room and locks it. Okay. Then after some time, they open the door and the child is just playing around and laughing. And that's when, Mammootty says, this is it. Fear is something that we have in our minds and we instill in the minds of the children through our behavior. Okay, so the day that we learn to be fearless is the day that we are truly, truly set free. That is the basic idea of this poem. Okay. Is this clear to you now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.